Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss.
He had the highest conviction rate in violent felony cases in L.A. County when he was prosecutor there. 105 out of 106. Won 21 consecutive murder trials. He's Vincent Bugliosi, best-selling author. Books he's written have been made into films, TV shows, you name it. Mr. Bugliosi, getting into the mind, you've studied criminology. You've been death-threatened before. You've dealt with these type individuals. We know that psychopaths, the controlled psychopaths, go for positions of power throughout history. Comparing the mind of Charlie Manson and other psychos you put away with George Bush, with Cheney, with the neocons, with their nasty mindset, give us your analysis on their mindset.
Well, I don't know if I'm an authority on the mindsets. I had to prove that the defendant committed the crime and that there was no legal justification for him to do so. We certainly got into the mind in the resolution of that issue, but motive is not an element of the corpus delicti of any crime. So I've actually put people on death row without knowing for sure why they committed the crime. All I knew is that they had done it, put someone in their grave 6 feet under, and they had no legal justification for doing so. But you're asking me kind of to compare Manson with Bush. Manson obviously was a very evil person. Let me get that off the hook here so we're not interrupted. Manson was a very evil person who wanted to kill as many people as he could. And I knew that if he was not stopped, he would have killed as many people as he could have. Someone who knew Manson a lot better than I did, because he lived with him, little Paul Watkins, he's dead now, he said, Vince, death is Charlie's trip. So I would classify Manson as being a very evil human being who placed no value on human life, and he had a passion for death, blood, and murder. Bush, I would not say is evil. He certainly doesn't want to kill anyone, but he's a despicable human being who couldn't care less when people do die. He's extremely arrogant, extremely self-centered, and one of the emotional underpinnings for this book, basically, is the fact that, and we're getting into this issue now, that he couldn't possibly care less about the fact that his own people were being killed or the death of innocent Iraqi civilians. One of the emotional underpinnings for my book is the fact that the evidence is overwhelming that throughout the hell on earth that Bush created in Iraq, with over 100,000 people dying horrible violent deaths and hundreds of thousands of their survivors crying out hysterically and having terrible nightmares over what happened to their loved ones, this guy, George Bush, has smiled through it all. In fact, if you see a photo of Bush and 6 or 7 other people smiling, Alex, who has the biggest smile on his face right in the middle of the war? George Bush. The evidence is very clear, and anyone that tries to dispute it is just going to be looking like a fool, that while young American soldiers, 18, 19-year-old kids, Alex, who never had a chance to live out their dreams, were being blown to pieces by roadside bombs in Iraq, Bush was having a lot of fun and enjoying life to the very fullest. I'm talking about running, bicycling, joking with friends, slapping backs, dancing and swiveling his hips like Elvis to blaring music, almost always appearing to be in the very best of good spirits.
Exactly. Let me just stop you, Vincent Bugliosi. I mean, just covering serious issues on this show, I've become more of a serious person, and I'm very serious in life. And you see a judge, they try to be solemn. You see police, they try to be professional and solemn. With Bush, he's always clowning around, and then he lied and said, I haven't been playing golf since the war started, and it turns out he's playing every week. So it's also the endless lying and just the arrogance, thinking we're all idiots.
Yeah, you look at a photograph of people like, or presidents like Roosevelt, Truman, LBJ, and Nixon, a photograph of their faces during the time of war, their respective wars, and the photos reflect the grimness of the war. It was a very serious time. Unlike any other president in American history during a time of war, Bush has regularly and routinely had a lot of fun and been in high spirits.
Well,
right
you can say what you want. You can say what you want about Nixon or LBJ, but they obsessed in the war room and tried to figure things out and got ulcers and lost sleep. And these weren't even very moral people in many respects, but they took it serious.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
LBJ told one of his aides, Jack Valenti, that every time in the morning when he'd read the casualty reports, it was like drinking carbolic acid. And for your audience out there, I will tell them that they don't have to take my word for this or the photographs in the book, and they're not gotcha photos. They're photos showing Bush having an absolute ball. Bush himself has had no hesitancy at all in saying things like this, Alex, over and over again. And while I'm quoting Bush, these are just some quotes that are in the book. While I'm quoting him, try to think, I'm asking your audience, you try to think of, at the very same time he's uttering these words, all of the death and the horror and the suffering and the screaming and the mutilations and beheadings that are taking place in Iraq while he's uttering these words. This is George Bush. Laura and I are having the time of our lives. I'm in a great mood. It's a perfect day. I'm feeling pretty good about life. Alex, if I killed one person, even accidentally, like in a car accident, I'd never have another perfect day for the rest of my life. And I'm telling you, this guy has been having a ball, enjoying himself to the utmost throughout this entire war. And I say this, that even if George Bush was only guilty of making an innocent mistake in taking this nation to war in Iraq, not murder, as I firmly believe, with all of the death, horror, and suffering he has caused, what type of a monstrous individual is it who could be happy with his life? And there's no question that he's happy. I mean, as recently as March of this year, he shows up at a press conference to endorse McCain's candidacy. McCain shows up late. What does Bush do? Spontaneously, big smile on his face, he starts doing a soft shoe tap dancing routine to entertain the assembled media. You've probably heard of Mark McKinnon.
Yes.
Alice, well, he's a bicycling friend of Bush, and I think he was the head of Bush's media campaign, or one of his strategists. I think he was the head of it, in the 2004 re-election campaign. He told the New York Times in 2005, right in the midst of all the horror and atrocities going on in Iraq, he says he's never seen the president more calm, relaxed, and happy. And to me, this is almost unprecedented. I kind of went off on a little riff. You're asking me to compare Manson with Bush. Bush is a despicable human being. I don't believe he's lost one wink of sleep over all the deaths that he's caused in Iraq.
Well, what about the working out 3 hours a day and taking 2-hour naps, and then says he doesn't even read the newspaper? Oh,
yeah. Probably even more telling than all of this, my wife and I, during a 7-year period, I work 7 days a week. I get to bed around 2 in the morning, wake up at 10. She says, you work from morning to morning. We had our 50th anniversary, and we took 3 days off in the desert during a 7-year period that Bush was president. If it hadn't been for the anniversary, probably wouldn't have even taken those 3 days off. Now, the only reason I mention that is that I'm, a cipher, a complete nobody. I'm just an author. During that same period, you know how many days George Bush took off for vacation, or at places like Kennebunkport?
Well, I know it's around a third of the year he's on vacation.
Yeah, that's right. 908 days. So I take 3 days off, and I'm nothing. He's the President of the United States, and I was told by the CBS radio guy who follows the White House that up until January 1st, 2008, he had taken off 908 days on vacation. Here's someone that's not particularly bright at all. Everyone agrees, even his supporters, that he has an extremely low amount of knowledge. If you were to take the average person and put them in the presidency with Bush's lack of knowledge, what would that person do if he loved America? He'd work round the clock trying to get as knowledgeable as he could so he could represent this country in the best possible way to bring it to a better condition than it presently is in. George Bush did the exact opposite, took off 908 days. Why? Well, like I say in the book, it doesn't just show he's lazy. Everyone knows that. It shows that. It shows, in my opinion, I'm not positive of this, that this man does not love the United States of America. He doesn't hate it. He doesn't hate it. But he has no particular love for it. And one way you show your love for your country, obviously, is to fight for it. And this is what I have against, among many other things, against Bush and his fellow neocons in the right wing of the party, the tremendous hypocrisy of these people. They're the most repugnant, hypocritical, un-American people in our society. When it was their time, this is just one example, I'm sure you have many more, Alex, when it was their time to fight for America in the Vietnam War, show their love for this country, what did they do? I'm talking about the Bushes, the Cheneys, the Roves, the indescribably reprehensible Rush Limbaugh. What did they do? They ran like hell in the opposite direction. But now they have no hesitancy in waving the flag and shedding the blood of other people's children in far-off Iraq. These are not good people. With respect to Bush's monumental crime in this case, here's my view.